Welcome to In Conversation with Filmmakers, which is being held on the sidelines of the 9th Arunachal Film Festival, which is going on right now at the DK Auditorium in Itanagar, which will be on the 8th and 9th of this month, where we have a lot of filmmakers from the region and from across the nation who are here. We have films from across the places, right from Ladakh to Mumbai. We have filmmakers who are here, we have master classes, we have panel discussions on issues related to filmmaking within the region, within Arunachal also, and a lot of capacity building workshops where filmmakers from the state can take part. So if you're into film, if you like watching films, if you like talking films, that's the place to be. And the other place to be is here with me in this studio of DDK Arunprabha Itanagar, where we are in conversation with three of the filmmakers who have come from outside. And this kind of represents what's going on back at the festival venue, where there's a forging of relationships, there's an exchange of learnings, and exchange of a lot of thought that has gone into filmmaking and how filmmaking has emerged. We have with us firstly Tenzing Tangkong, who's from Ladakh, and his film Last Days of Summer is here. He's studied at the Symbiosis Center for Media, and it's been about 5-6 years that he's been doing films, and this film has been awarded at the International Film Festival at Rotterdam, at Sao Paulo, at Krakow, and indeed we are very fortunate to have you here today. We also have with us my old friend Pawan, Haubam Pawan Kumar. He's one of the, I would say, the shining light of filmmaking in the Northeast, and I can say this because he has 8 national awards and many international awards to his credit. His film Afspa 1958 won the national award. Subsequently, another film that I really love, Loktak Larambi, has also won awards at Toronto, at New York, and he is here with his film 9 Hills and One Valley. Then we have with us Meenakshi, who is both a filmmaker and a film curator, also a critic and a journalist. She's also part of the jury of Cannes Film Festival, of the Berlin Film Festival, of the Mami Geo, and she has to her credit over 15 films, and I think she's contributed to about 21 and more books on filmmaking and writing about films. So we have with us a panel which is, I would say, very eclectic. We have someone who's from the young Turks of filmmaking of the mountain regions. We have Pawan, who's been kind of a stalwart, like I said. We have Meenakshi, who's both a filmmaker and treading the two parts of writing about films and doing films. So what we plan to do this afternoon is get to know them a little better, explore issues of filmmaking, and then see where that goes from here. I want to start with you, Pawan. When we were having a discussion back at the venue, you said they had wanted Joseph's son to be here,
yeah.
But you decided that 9 Hills, One Valley should be screened. So my first question to you is why? Why did you take that decision?
Well, the unfortunate thing that's happening in Manipur right now, everybody is asking, and being a filmmaker, a lot of people throughout the country, they want to know what is happening. Everybody is confused what is happening in Manipur right now. I think 9 Hills, One Valley is a film which I think kind of talks about what's really happening there right now. It's a film which looks back at the Kuki-Naga conflict in the 90s to know the present and for the future. So I think that this film is very important right now.
So which brings me to the whole idea of, therefore, how do you see filmmakers, especially from regions of conflict, the role that films and filmmakers can play, in facing head-on the idea of conflict or the idea of dialogue, for instance? Or what do you say films can do in that?
See, if you look at my work, most of my ideas comes from daily happenings around me. It has always been my contemporary this thing, which if I'm doing a film next, my next film will be about what's really affecting me as a person right now. So all my films, maybe it's because I've been doing documentaries for a long time, but then I continue to do that in fiction as well. But then saying that, I don't really think that my films have changed the world. We try to do that. We try to make it a better place to live, but I don't really see it happening. But as an artist, as a filmmaker, I keep on trying to do that.
Right.
In the film.
Just to push you a little, do you think, you know, when we talk about filmmaking, we also sometimes talk about film activism, you know? So could is there a space, especially in the Northeast, where filmmakers also take on a kind of, you know, a added role of the of the activist, you know, and through films perhaps, and not just in conflict or with things about social change, about loss of identity, loss of languages. So do you think there's a space for that?
Not sure, but a lot of people think that I'm an activist filmmaker, which I kind of deny. In the sense, if you look at my last work, my last documentary, Floating Like Fumsang, I didn't make the kind of film the fisherman community wanted. You know, the whole, so, I made a film which was, cinematically pleasing for me as a filmmaker. I went for it cinematically, not like the. So what I normally do nowadays is I have another cut for the, community, and then I also make my own
Director's cut.
Yeah, director's cut. And sometimes I feel that maybe I'm not doing justice to the subject, the people there, but then. Being a film student, I want to explore it cinematically, So people might think I'm an activist, but I try to go it the cinematic way.
Okay.
And always have another cut, maybe a sort of version, which the community wants to use it for some other purpose.
Okay. We'll come back to that thought. Please hold on to that. Sanjan, your film, a very powerful film, also talks about conflict in a certain way, of conflict of things that are happening. So, and during the interactions, you mentioned the importance for us to tell our stories. So, can you expand on that a little bit about, because I remember you saying, that it's very important that people from our mountain regions talk about our stories. So, can you share a little bit more on that?
See, especially the places like Ladakh or even Northeast, we are so remote to the outer world, and what we consume, we don't even consume our own media, our own kind of story anymore. We ourselves look for some outside like Bollywood or some other. We don't even consume our own stories. So forget about others knowing about us. So, but then the issues that we face today, especially in Ladakh right now, due to climate change, global warming, we have drastic problem. Like due to the Himalayan fragile ecosystem, there is great amount of problem, but we are so remote, so cut out from the mainstream conversation. Those things never comes up. People only talk about how beautiful hills and mountains are. Nobody talks about how the small communities who live in these remote regions of these mountains, how they are struggling to survive, how each year 1 or 2 villages are getting, people are having to leave their villages because the glacier is no more there. So there's no fresh water. Forget about farming. There's not even no water to drink. So people move from this village to the next village where there's water. That means one whole village is gone. The movies that I make these are the people from eastern Ladakh called Changpas. Changpa is a tribe of nomads. These are pure nomads. So earlier, back in 1990, 89 or 90, we used to have around 70 families out there. Today, there are just 7 families. See, now this I'm talking about not just a village going, the whole culture, a heritage of Ladakh, not just for Ladakh, for all over the world, for India and the whole world. It matters. Now this 7 family, by the time I was shooting last year, it was 11. Now it is 7 this year. Tomorrow it will be 3 or 4. Then there won't be anything left there. The whole culture, heritage will be lost forever. People are shifting to, I don't even blame the villages because there's nothing there. There's no, government has done nothing, or even the big institutions who can support. It's not there. Children, they have to send to school. There are no good schools out there in the nomad land. They send them to a city. When the children move, once you go to school, you are never going to come back because you're not going to like that kind of life. Once you know that you can take out water from fridge which is cold, then you will not come back to village.
So coming to your filmmaking, Ladakh is one place like Arunachal where the filmmaking has it has a more recent history. So, what are the? I'm sure the challenges would be similar. Like, the, are there lessons that we can learn from each other in terms of what's happening in Ladakh, of the hardships that the filmmakers face? Can you share some story on that? And
Yes. To be very frank, I don't even distinguish between Ladakh and Arunachal or Northeast. I find we are all same. We are on the same page here. We are all very environmentally fragile ecosystem that we live in. That is exactly the same. And people look at us just as either it's a conflicted border area zone, or it's a beautiful, retreat for mountain from all their busy lives in big cities. That's all. So, and then we have so many languages and so many cultures which are not out there in the mainstream, very remote, very unique to us. But we don't tell, like I said, we don't tell stories of ourselves. Even in Ladakh, it's the same case. It's dying. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. You don't set a trend yourself, then of course people are going to follow Tom Cruise and Shah Rukh Khan, because you have not set a trend in your own region. You have not done that. You have not told stories. So many folk stories. I mean, great folk stories are there. And then here we have today's life. How am I living in Leh today? My ancestors were the nomads. Now I'm in Leh. How do I live? How does my neighbor live? None of these stories have come out, but we need to. There are so many things to tell. There's so many interesting stories. Anybody in the world can watch. I made 2 films. Both have done really well in the short films, international film festival circuit. People are really interested. People are asking me questions like, where are these people?
Right.
What is this place? They don't even know out there in Europe. They don't know at all.
so, filmmakers in Ladakh, are they? What is it like? I mean, if our viewers would like to know what's happening in terms of film in Ladakh, so are we seeing a lot of the kind of films that you are doing, or is it more of like the mainstream Bollywood or Hollywood? What's it like, the scene like?
We are in Ladakh. Earlier, the older filmmakers, they used to make movies because they have had access only to Bollywood, and they will what you consume you do.
Right.
Because they have not been like world cinema. Those kind of cinemas are only found in film schools, and none of them have gone to film schools. So they consume that, and they used to make pop culture Ladakhi films. And this will reflect exactly like Bollywood. There will be hero, there will be heroine, there will be a villain, right? One will be rich, one will be poor, and all those things, whatever.
Right.
And then there will be music, song, love story, and then happy ending. So exactly, that's what Ladakh used to make. And I think it's good, at least you are making movies.
Right.
But then due to the lack of movie theater or exhibition center in Ladakh, even the filmmakers stopped making those. And now this I'm talking about before digital. They, of course,
Okay.
they couldn't afford 35 mm
Right.
or something, but they used to make it through DV tapes, DV tape, those things.
Right.
But they used to make it anyhow. Then they stopped because there's no cinema. They
Right.
cannot generate. Even they have to earn a bread and butter. Cinema was not the answer for them because there was no theater.
Right.
They had to carry cameras, like projectors and everything to village on donkeys and all, mule and all, and then they used to screen in the community halls and things like that. It was really difficult, and people stopped believing that there's future to this.
Right.
Now, I have looked at. I'm not a very big fan of that kind of filmmaking, but I really appreciate they started it, because of which people like me get the inspiration or motivation to make. And today filmmaking is much easier and cheaper due to digital
Right.
age, the age of digital. So I try to make movies which are more. I have fortunately had access to this world cinema like Italy,
Right.
neorealism.
So it's
Iranian-
easier than
Yes,
the previous
yes,
generation.
yes. Now I'm talking more about the community now.
Right,
Our
okay.
society, what it faces now, in a more realistic way. There's no hero or villain. There's just human beings.
Okay.
Good can be bad can be good as well.
Right. Now, just to shift the conversation, you come from, you traverse, like I said earlier, the 2 lines between being a filmmaker and also writing about films. Then, when you see the films from the Northeast, how do you see? Do you see it as a separate cinema of the Northeast, or do you see it as a part of the larger pan-India film movement, or how is it? How do you perceive films from the Northeast?
So I think films, especially which are outside of the Bollywood system, I mean Bollywood is its own voice, but I think each region brings a very unique voice. In the Northeast, even more because we don't know enough of it, we don't see enough of it, except very stereotyped images, all as he said, Iraqi either as, you know, a war zone or a tourist kind of. So the images that we receive from these areas are very stereotypical and often misleading of the actual realities on the ground. So I feel the onus, or at least as a viewer, I feel I expect much more from filmmakers because they are telling me of what's actually going on. Okay. And I learn so much from seeing their films. I don't mean just learning academically. I mean, by seeing Pawan's films or Stan's film, I have an idea what are they concerned about, what are their concerns, what is driving them, what is their philosophy, what is bothering them at this moment, how are they dealing. I'm really interested. And of course, in a extraordinarily very unique cinematic languages, it's not just the subject, but how they're treating it, right? Mm-hmm. And also for even his earlier work until now, you've seen such a journey, right? Like Afspa is a kind of thing you don't usually see in filmmaking because it was also very collaborative. It was so much explosive stuff going on with this Afspa. A lot of the TV guys were sharing footage, which we see now a whole cycle later in what is happening in FTI. And this magnificent film, The Night of Knowing Nothing by Payal Kapadia, where she used found footage and a lot of her friends were giving her footage. This is a very unique way of filmmaking, and it also tells me so much about the filmmaking community that is responding together to some larger crisis than which is otherwise traditionally a competitive. Arey, we are fighting for the same funds. My contact I won't share with you. It is very competitive, and especially for their kind of filmmaking, it's very rare to find. It's a real struggle to find producers, right? Because they're making films without stars and stuff. So I really admire much more, and I come out and seek, which is why I'm here. Actually, it's a very busy time, but it's very close to the Berlin Film Festival. But if I lost this chance, I don't know when I might come at all. So I've had a very deep interest in the North for many decades. So I've traveled to very different paths for different reasons even, not only film, which gives me a whole other insight as well to their societies and culture. So I feel their voices are much more unique in a way and really precious.
Just one thing that keeps kind of bothering me a lot is this whole discourse between the popularity of the Bollywood mold of cinema and the revenue it generates, for the filmmakers, which is happening across the Northeast. Unfortunately, it stopped in Ladakh, but I think in Manipur we have it here. And then there's the other film that, like you said, what Pawan is doing, what Sanjan is doing about independent films. But then again, we can't really survive art for art's sake. So since you come from that arena of looking at distribution networks and markets for such films, do you think, two questions really, like how could people access funding for those, number one, and number two,
funding for independent films?
For independent films, and also is there a space, I mean, and how big is the space? Because the two viewers who are here, because independent film in Arunachal particularly, it's catching up now. It's it's mostly, like he was saying, we've been mostly exposed to Bollywood genre of films. So can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, so I think it's very, very important to me personally as a person, I mean, someone who's not actively making films just now. I have a background, but I'm more in the programming mode now. I really, really respect both kinds of cinemas. I may not love a lot of Bollywood, a lot of maybe trash, but I think without that mainstream industry, the indie guys would not exist. So I know there's a lot of contempt on both sides. Bollywood say, "Kya hai tera film kaun aa raha hai?" And he will say, "What bakwas." There is a lot of contempt on both sides. There's a lot of competition for limited resources. But I do believe, and especially as a programmer, that you need each other to coexist. You may not get along is different. You may not talk to your wife, but you're married to her. No, you shut up and get along with it. Like, get on with it. Like, don't, should we be called Bollywood or not? Like, forget it. Just go out and do your stuff. Right. Because I feel unless you have a mainstream industry making masala stuff with big stars, where will you get your technicians? Where are these two guys going to find the guys? He's making these fantastic films without finding actors who are trained. They're making do with what resources they can manage. But if they had actors, they would make very different films of another level. Right. They're making do. Making do is different from, right? Yeah. So the mainstream industry would generate technicians, actors, cinematographers, editors, just money, resources. When somebody has money that they're making from masala films, somebody might even give them to make their indie films, right? If you're also... only indie can't survive, I feel, with itself. It's too much of a struggle. You'll spend all your time trying to raise that and not have enough time to make your art, actually. Right. Because the struggle is so great, right? So I think it's good to have that perspective. I may never see a Salman film in my life, but I think we need each other. Those guys are making stuff a lot of mainstream stuff is not really sensitive or artistic or, you know, it's just made there. It's just a box office thing. And I think they need also for respectability awards. Their films have gone abroad, they've been at festivals. So I think the respectability and the artistry comes from here, and the industry and the commerce comes, and I think really you need both to survive. And I think it would be also good for filmmakers to have that perspective. When you have contemporary, which is fine, I'm not saying you have to make a film like that or anything, but to understand that the ecosystem is good for both. Each needs the other, I feel.
I just want to come to the Pawan, in terms of the market, you know, reaching out to audiences, how easy is it or how difficult is it? I mean, I just want you both to pitch in. That you have your, of course, the film circuit is there, but at the end of the day, we also tell our stories to ourselves, you know. So to home communities, it's one good thing that it's been seen across the world, but to within the community, how easy or difficult has it been?
See, Mozi, what I've been doing till now, you know, I'm a very independent filmmaker, and I always believe there is a market for all kind of films. It's just that in India, you know, since I've been to film school, what I know is there is a market for all kind of films. It's just that our you know, we don't have enough producers who are working on this line, because we are very much comfortable with what we have. You know, everybody, even SRFTI has started producing courses, but all these people, like, unlike what we see around the world, you know, all these small Southeast Asian producers, or you know, all these small time producers, they are trying to go around the world and bring in funds, but whereas our producers are comfortably working in you know, in Bollywood, you know, so they don't really come out of it. And right now, you know, there are a lot of funds which supports first time and second time filmmakers, but you know, I've done my third feature film. It's not easy after your second film to go around looking out for funds, you know. So for me, you know, my working style is very different. I make my own kind of film. I don't care whether, you know, it goes anywhere or there. But then I also have a thinking that, you know, maybe I will have 2 more films, but then after that maybe I'll go for a conventional way of filmmaking. You know, I always try to play around with the form, you know. But then maybe after these 2 ideas, maybe I'll go back to my roots, because a lot of people in Manipur know me as someone who is always in the newspaper. Many of them have not seen my film.
Sanjin, or can you very quickly,
in
your experience, like your distribution, I mean your marketing of your films within the community, how difficult has it been?
I think if we make, in Ladakh, it's just a matter of making. If you make even a good story film, there is audience. Now, because there was no theatre, people stopped making. Now there's been a big void of like around 7-8 years. Nobody has been making. If I make, I'm sure there's good audience, and it can generate certain amount if you make, you know, budget, control budget.
And Moji has his own theatre.
Yes, I was about to say that, and a unique example of you running your own theatre, mobile theatre. I think that's really the model to go forward.
That's my sole purpose.
Right. We're really out of time. I'll have to cut this conversation short. I'm really sorry, but wonderful having you guys here, and for the thoughts, and for viewers watching back home, Film Festival is on. Please do go and see. And not just in the film festival, but please support independent films. Whenever there's a new film releasing, go out and watch these films, because films are the new storytelling that we have from the villages. In earlier days, we had our grandparents telling us stories. Now it's filmmakers who have turned storytellers, and they need support. We need support. Go out, push. We need a new push to filmmaking in Arunachal and in the Northeast, and we bank on you. Aap dekhoge, to filmmaking survive karega. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is that a wrap?